are watching the Blueprint Radio Show with DJ Miss Hennessy.
When I look at this statue, I'm amazed, and I also feel like change, and I also feel like it's a start to healing, and it's bringing unity and for the culture, for New York, for the world, you know, and I'm very happy about that. Just understand that, you know, everyone has a past, but you have to look at the person's real life. You have to actually read the book. Don't just look at the cover. And that's what I have to say about that. When they look at this, I want them to understand that my brother was a human being. He was a person. He had a purpose. He had rights. And through this, it's going to bring on unity, and it's going to heal the world and change the world. Right now, you know, I'm speaking for him because he can't speak no more. He can't walk no more. He can't love no more. So I'm gonna do that for him. So what I say is what he would say. He loves it. I love it. And I thank New York for it. I thank Confront Arts for bringing the project to me. I thank my team, We Are Floyd, for not thinking that this project was something we need to shut down, but go with.
Stop killing us. Stop killing us. Stop killing our black children. And we ourselves has to stop killing one another. We need peace and harmony. We need love.
I was asked, why did you do it? I said, so that we'll never forget. I mean, it's not about hero worship. It's about never forgetting. And then they said, well, oh yeah, the white guy is telling us black people not to forget. I'm like, well, maybe it's not you I'm talking to. It's for those who want to intentionally forget, who would rather not remember what happened. And that's what I hope to do with this, to just keep it out in the forefront, continue the conversation, and keep the awareness at a high level.
Just walking across right now, and this is our first time seeing it. I think I'm just like in awe. It's very powerful, especially just seeing like these three representations of like, you know, black pain and suffering, but in such a beautiful way. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say, but it's really beautiful.
Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Maxine Johns right here, Miss Hennessy for Miss Hennessy Speaks TV. This interview is beyond exclusive. This interview is beyond necessary, and it is probably one of the most important interviews that I've been lucky and blessed to get in a very, very long time. The amazing man that we see in the other screen that I'm about to introduce is somebody that has been tirelessly speaking on, working for, fighting for the rights of a man that was thrust into our homes and in our brains in probably one of the most difficult moments that we've had to watch on TV in a long, long time. I would love to introduce the brother of George Floyd, Mr. Terrence Floyd, the CEO of We Are Floyd, and as he likes to put it, just a regular guy fighting the good fight. Welcome to Miss Hennessy TV, Terrence. How are you this morning, brother?
I'm all right. Peace, kings and queens. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm maintaining.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So lovely to finally connect with you. We're obviously speaking to you. You're in Brooklyn, New York at the moment. I'm here in Sydney, Australia. It's like 6:15 a.m. here, and probably late afternoon for you over there in Brooklyn. So really grateful for you to make time to speak to me today, and just really nice to kind of see you outside of obviously us, connecting madly on social media, trying to make this happen, which I think has taken us a few months now. So
Yes, yes.
grateful to see you. How are you doing? By the way, you look well, but how are you doing?
I'm basically keeping my head above water because drowning is not an option. That's the
Not
way
at
I like
all.
to put it. So I'm basically just trying to keep strong for for my children, my family, so we can all get through this together. It's not gonna be over for us because we lost a loved one, but we could definitely love each other and each other to get through this, and that's what we're doing
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you sort of opened up with, drowning's not an option. It really isn't. And it never is when it comes to something as there's so many words that we can use to describe it. And I know for me, when we think about, what happened to your late brother George, Floyd back in 2020, that
Yes.
moment, I think for a lot of people, we can remember we can remember where we were, but I think where we were doesn't matter because
Right.
what we were watching, what we were witnessing has forever changed, people's lives. And if it hasn't changed anybody's life, you've got to question that. Because, look, you and I both obviously live in times where, we've seen some heinous things happen on online, on TV, in front of our eyes. But
Yes.
there was something extremely primal about what we had witnessed, obviously with the passing of your brother, um, and to put it into words, that words escape. Right now, you've obviously done so much work from that moment, Terrence. But people also need to remember you're a family member, you're a sibling, you're a brother. That's more than just getting up on a pulpit and sort of preaching and spreading the word. As a
Yes.
brother,
Yes.
as George's brother, how can I ask you respectfully, how did that news impact you from that moment? Like, what was your thought process like when you first heard, before you saw the footage?
Well, before I actually let me start from the beginning. Actually, on that day, I remember it. I was actually going to a doctor's appointment, and as I was going to my doctor's appointment, my sisters, Bridget and Tanya Floyd, they called me on Facebook Messenger, and I remember them being so hysterical. They was like crying hysterically, and I'm like, "What's going on? What happened? What's going on? I don't understand. I can't hear you." And it was like, "He's gone, he's gone." I'm like, "Who? Who are you talking about?" And I remember telling them, "I'm getting ready to get on the train. I gotta go to the doctor's appointment. I'll call you back. I'll call you back." And I hung up because I was getting on the train. And I remember being at the doctor's office and seeing people on their phones, and I'm like, "What is going on?" Everybody's just not looking up. They're oohing and ahhing and wow, wow, wow. And I'm like, let me just get out this doctor's appointment, then see what's going on, I guess. So when I finished at the doctor, um, I got back on the train and my sisters called me back, and they were still crying, and they like, look at YouTube, look at the internet. And I'm like, what? So I was like, you know what? I stopped. I was like maybe a block away from my residence, and I looked on the internet and I looked it up, and you didn't have to. search
Yeah.
far. It was as soon as you went on, it was just like right there. But at the time that I went on the internet, it was at that time that they revealed the name. Before when my sisters called me, it was just the voice and a blurred picture.
Wow.
You know, they didn't know. So at the time I looked at it, it was like they had revealed a name and I could hear his voice and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it was like so much energy just went out of me, and while I was walking, I remember I kinda collapsed onto the building that I
Oh,
was near, and one of my like, 2 of my people in my neighborhood, they came up to me, and he was like, "T, you okay? You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm good, I'm good. You alright? You alright? Yeah." And I had my phone in my hand. I said, "That's my brother, man." And they looked at the phone, he was like and they been looking at it all day too. They was like, "Man, what?" They was in shock, and I couldn't even speak. They walked me back to my residence, and I went upstairs, and I remember I seen my family sitting there, and they just was looking at me like, waiting for my response. And I remember I just went in my room and closed the door.
oh man. That is, that's the stuff that people obviously this impacted globally, right? And for me to hear you say that, that's the most personal, sort of recollection of when tragedy and when trauma like this hits. People don't
Right,
understand the impact, not on the global scale, but that internal stuff. And as your
right,
brother, to be able to see that you're so far away, you can't get there straight away, you're in another state, you know.
right.
Um, yeah, I
And
can't.
and a lot I'm sorry.
No, 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 go on.
I often tell this story because my relationship with my brother is, sorta like a I guess the cultural one, the one that's more a cultural common relationship where we both had the same father, different mothers. Our
Right,
father was George Floyd Senior,
right,
so, and, he was the first boy, he was the first son. I was just, he was the junior, I was me, but, my father just often told me about him. He made sure that we knew about each other, whether we was able to see each other or bond with each other. But I remember in 2016 is when one of my cousins had a baby shower for her daughter, and she knew I wanted to always meet my brother, and she surprised me, and he actually came up into New York in
yeah.
2016, and that was like the first time I was able to lay my eyes on him and just hug him and bond with him. And since then, we just been talking on the phone, social media, whatever contact connection we could get, we got it. And then to for them to take him away from me like that, that's why it hit me so hard. So I just didn't want to speak for like at least a week.
Oh man, I can't even imagine, and now just hearing you say that too, where you were brothers, but you hadn't really connected until what, about 4 or 5 years prior to his death.
Right,
That is just, there are no words that really capture that feeling, but I totally understand the fight that you've been on since that moment, and why it has been such a profound and such a necessary fight for you to do as well. It's not easy though, and I think that's what people are not a lot of people understand what this would be. I mean, not even I do. I think for me, it's more obviously the emotional impact that it's had, and the fact that I'm a mother of black sons, raising them in a world where they get to see that. And there's a lot of parenting that comes from that. My husband is
hmm
African American, I'm South African, so we've grown up in countries that racial um, racial segregation, the racial fight, the fight to, stand in spaces everybody deserves and should be, is something
Yes.
we're used to, right? As a people, as a culture. A lot of other people aren't really used to that conversation. I know here in Australia, people are aware of it, but it's not an ongoing conversation. And I think sometimes it probably needs to be here for us with what we deal with our Indigenous communities and the fight that they have happening, which I think is why they've kind
Right.
of connected so strongly with this particular case with your brother's passing. But
Yes.
the anger and the hurt and that feeling of disbelief, that a lot of people obviously felt watching that footage, watching that whole entire scene. To this day, I still can't get it out of my head. To this day, I'm still angry. To this day, that primal feeling of, more has to be done for those things to never ever happen. That's just words, though, right, Terrence, at the end of the day, because people are scared to get involved, right? Even as an
Yes.
internet, even
Yes.
as a person living overseas, I see that going, oh, I would have definitely said something. I would have definitely gone there. But when you're there and you see a whole
Right.
bunch of police officers being, and to me, that was just straight up bullying on the biggest grade possible,
Yes.
authoritarian bullying. Um,
Right.
what's a person to do other than just capture it on their iPhones, which is what thankfully that young lady did. Um,
I mean, that that that's a start. I've seen people and she captured it with class. Let me
oh,
say that.
she did.
She captured it with class because you have people now that they capture it, but you're doing a whole lot of talking and cursing and stuff like that. And so what are you really capturing? You're capturing the fact that these officers are acting this way because they're actually scared. Because listen to you. So I believe she captured it with class. And that's what I feel. If you're gonna do it with class. Do it with be strategic. Don't I know you upset. I know you angry, but don't act on it while you're filming because you're actually filming yourself too.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. She really did, and for obviously we won't really sort of mention her name too much. I mean, I know she caught so much heat after that whole thing. She went through
Yes.
her own trial and tribulation. So much respect to her, but she did capture it with class. And she held her ground and she had dignity. I mean, her life, forever changed. The bystanders, forever changed.
Yes.
Do you think
Yes.
that it has made some kind of impact though? Because even after that what we saw happen and then the events that followed, oh my God, um, do you think that there has been some sort of change that is made? Because we've lost so many incredible
Yes.
people after that due to police brutality in the US. But do you think your brother's that moment and your brother's connection has had any or has made any significant change to the fight?
Yes. It's like a yes and a no
Yeah.
answer to that because yes, because as I was in conversation with someone the other day, they told me that they explained to me that my brother's situation changed the vibrations of the earth. So and I realized it because the young people are more in tune with what's going on now. They really want to be a part of the solution.
Yes.
And that alone is good because like what Houston said, they are the future.
Yes.
And if they go crazy and forget about it and don't want to do nothing, then we're gonna be extinct.
Yeah.
So yes, I believe it has changed and impacted, but then I feel the no part is the fact that the mindsets of the oppressors
Yeah. Yeah.
has not changed.
Not at all.
And that's what it is. We fighting like they said, we beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
We're beating a dead horse. It's time to stop beating a dead horse. Get that horse off the road and go get another horse.
Yeah. Exactly right. That's exactly
You
right.
know, that's the way I see it. But so it's like a yes or no answer because yes, the youth, the young people are really in tune with what's going on and trying to better themselves, and then you got the no part with the oppressors with the mindsets, staying the
Yeah.
same, staying racist,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, so
just not
it's
it's
just
weird.
it is, and I mean, look, that was a challenging question to ask, but it was one that you've answered it um, as best and as honestly as you could, because it's like oil and water, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
for a lot of us, and there's a lot of expat Americans that live here in Sydney, that live in Australia, that I've even had the conversation with a lot of them where not only with this particular situation, but with every heinous situation that we see, or whether it's on social media, whether it's on the news. I mean, this recent situation with that young man being shot
Oh
in the
man.
head for knocking on the wrong door. It's as if there is no um, it's as if care and self-awareness, just that basic human connection, seems to have evaded the US sometimes. And I get so concerned for my family that lives over there, or for anybody that says they're going to travel there. I know it's ridiculous because half my family's American, but to sit there and think, what
Right.
is it like every day for a Black American family, or to wake up and to go out into the world and just be, well, I'm just going to be me, be my amazing self, and just keep on living. And then we've got this happening all the time. Is it something you're always looking over your shoulder for, always aware of? You got to move differently as
Yes.
a Black person, right, in the States. Is that naive of me to ask you, or am I on point with that?
No, you're definitely on point because I have an older son. He'll be 20 this year, which is actually Kevin's godbrother.
Oh, wow. That's
You know,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. His mother is my son's godmother. So
That's
definitely. But he's gonna be 20 this year, and it's like when he go out, I'm praying for him that he returns safe, and vice versa. When is he if he's in and I go out, he's telling me he's looking at the door. He's waiting for he'll call me, Dad, you okay? It's like this is what we have to deal with because you know when we walk outside, we don't know,
yeah,
and that's why I tell him to carry himself well, and I carry myself well because it's oh my goodness, it's crazy. Like I'm a thinker and I think a lot. And a lot of people want me to denounce the officers and the police officers and hate them and stuff like that. But I'm a thinker and I think and I say, wait a minute, I can't hate or dislike a person that didn't do nothing to me just because it's an occupation.
that's love. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's an occupation, it's their job to protect and serve.
yeah,
And there are officers out here
yeah,
that do that,
yeah,
do just that, and but then you have the bad apples, as they say,
yeah.
and so I can't go around hating and disliking all law enforcement, no, because until you prove to me that you're not fit for that job, then I'm gonna give you the respect you deserve.
That's it. That's it. And that right there, I mean, even, the fact that you've said that, that it just highlights, the difference in your thought process, your heart, you know, the good things that are happening right there within the spirit, because I think at the time everybody wasn't on that page.
Right.
And the conversations globally that were occurring, it was like a wave. I think in my lifetime I've never ever really witnessed or been involved in anything like that. The amount of protests that were springing up in every country, Black Lives Matter, the
Yes.
voice that whole movement just took on such an incredible this wave globally. What was that
Yes.
like for your family to, while you're going through your own grief and trying to come to terms with this abhorrent act that had happened, that had taken the life of your brother? What was that? What was the global impact of everything like for you and your family?
Uh, it was wow. It was surreal because we're going through this, and you see death, you see people pass away, and you see the friends and family come around and comfort and pray and give you kind words and encouragement and stuff like that. You see that on a more intimate level, but to see it on a global level, it was like, wow, like I said, when I spoke after the trial, what a day to be a Floyd.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 'Cause it was just like,
Yeah.
wow, because my our I looked at it like our last name is just as big as Chase,
Yeah.
just as big as Macy's, just as big as all of them big corporations,
Yeah.
and it's just like, wow, because it was global.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that just was on the states news. It was
Yeah.
international, and it was like, wow. Like I really knew that it had touched everywhere when I see, and people laugh at me, but I'm serious. When I seen the Amish out there with signs,
What?
I
Wow.
see I seen footage of the Amish with signs, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even know from what I
Need
know,
signs.
yeah, they ain't got no TVs or nothing. I don't,
Yeah.
but I'm like, wow, that's when I knew. I said, this is bigger than it got to a point where, yeah, I speak to different schools and different platforms and stuff. It got to the point I started telling them that this is even bigger than my brother. This is
Oh,
bigger than the family. This is big. This is the culture where we have to wake up and really, this is the time now where we really have to educate ourselves and get the full message clear.
yeah, absolutely.
And this is the time. And you know how people say don't miss the opportunity? This is the opportunity right now. Even though you're seeing it happen over and over again, yes, get upset, get angry, yes, but don't act on it.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
that's the problem. That's the problem right there. People are angry and they acting on their anger. No,
yeah,
no, you can't do that. Because when you do that, you're proving the oppressors right.
yeah,
You're proving
absolutely.
them right. Look, look, yeah, look. We told you they're animals. They're this. No,
Thank you.
as far as I'm concerned, black and brown people, we love. That's the force, the foundation of us.
Yeah.
But because of, I want to say, generational hurt, or and oh man, I get hurt from the ancestors that
Yes, yes,
we're taking on.
yes,
You know, it's just like, yeah, we don't forget, but don't dwell on it. Build from it.
absolutely. Absolutely. You couldn't have put it better. It is generational trauma. It is that ancestral hurt, right? Because we're like, man, our people be going through some things that,
Oh yeah.
the word strong is in our DNA, right? The word fight
Yes.
is in our DNA. But because we've got that, it doesn't mean that we've got to live our life fighting all the time. And that's how it feels at
Right.
the moment, right? But you're right. We are a loving people. We are a deeply caring people. And that side doesn't get shown enough because we're always put into situations where we're fighting. And where we're
Right.
fighting for ourselves, where we're fighting for our families, or just for that, ability to just live life like everybody else.
Yes.
And I say we
Yes.
when I speak as a culture. Obviously, I'm
Right.
grateful that we live where we live. I mean, racism is everywhere in the world, and that's something that
Everywhere.
people need to understand. It's everywhere. Every cultural pocket, or black and brown person, or even if you're from other cultures, you sometimes your own
Yes.
people, you're fighting that inter-racism within black families too, which is it's just something that's so hard to get your head across. But at the core of it, I think why um, George's, passing was so globally impactful, not only because of how it happened and the wrongness of what it was, the total unjust, unfair, you know, God, even the Amish, like you're saying, getting involved. If people know who the Amish are, but just they keep to themselves. They really do keep out of, everyday life and society. That just highlights how wrong it was. But the global
Right.
stuff, you're right. I read so much on, the youth um, that obviously were taking charge with, Black Lives Matter and keeping that whole sort of movement alive, whether people liked it or not, because even that movement in itself polarized um, so many people, right? There was so many for and there was so many against, didn't understand it, thought it was just a reason to, cause upheaval in cities and stop traffic. And those that were for it are like, hey, this is our tool. This is what we have to say to get across, obviously charged by our youth. I did see what I thought was brilliant were the images that were taken, the photos of the young kids holding these placards that they made and the sayings on the placards. One of them that
Right.
that caught me that I still remember is "We are not our ancestors," right? As
Right.
in, these kids are not they're not how the ancestors would have dealt with this. This is a new breed,
Right.
right? This is a breed that fights
Yes.
back. This is a breed that records. This is a breed that yells back, that doesn't, that they basically don't take any crap. So
Right.
um, I think that what you said about, you know, the name Floyd, it's forever. It's forever
Yes.
um, connected and change the way we look at any of this footage that comes out with these, attacks, these the constant. It's just I could go on, but I'm going to end up rambling. But I think the global
No.
impact is still what it is
Right.
today, right?
Right.
The
Right.
positivity that came out of it, Terrence, can we talk a little bit about that? Because obviously we focused
Okay.
on the negative of what then now has become such a positive force. You're the
Right.
CEO and the founder of We Are Floyd, um, which is a movement organization. You're on stages all the time talking about, um, not only your brother, but the work that this organization does. So, can you please shine a light on what We Are Floyd does, and hopefully get some more people here in Australia, connected to it?
Right. Actually, we are. Thank you. We are Floyd. I actually named it We Are Floyd because that's what it is. When I realized that this is bigger than just my brother,
Mm,
bigger than big. It's a cultural thing. That's why I said we.
mm.
And that could have happened. Like you said, you're a mother of sons. That could have happened to any one of us. I could have been on the mural. you know what I'm saying, or my sons, or your sons. So it doesn't. It's not about which person it was, which culture or which race or religion it was. It just happened. It's we all together in it. And when this situation happened, everyone came together to protest. So I named it We Are Floyd because we are all the same. We 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 all spirits. We all
Mhm.
spirits. We just have different skin tones.
That's right.
You know, and I really grasp that, and as I go to different schools, and that's what we do now. We are Floyd. We go to the schools. I'm trying to get in a vendor, try to be a vendor in the schools in my community, so I can continue to encourage the young people. We do the food drives and we join in with the backpacks back to school and stuff like that for the community. But that's basically what we're doing.
Mm,
We're focusing on the community. Our target audience is the youth.
mm.
We have to. We have to target the youth.
Yes,
And we also target the adults too, but
yes,
the youth is our primary target because
absolutely.
we have to get to them. And I'm working now on trying to get programs in the schools to keep the young people engaged.
Yeah,
My family, we our foundation is music,
yes,
whether we sing or play an instrument, and that's one of the things I want to get back into the schools, the music program, because
yes.
I know that helped save my life.
It certainly
The
does,
art,
man. Oh,
the arts, period. They took all of that out, and I know those classes saved my life, and I want to save this next generation, the generation after that. So that's
amazing.
basically what we are. That's exactly what We Are Floyd do. We go around to the schools. We let them know who we are. We let them know we in the community. We let them know that we're here to help and
Yeah.
encourage and not tear down.
I love that. I love that. Obviously, I do follow you on social media, and I see the amazing stuff that you do. You are really busy, which I totally get why it's taken us this long to get to this conversation. So I'm very grateful for your time. But I love, who you're aligned with as well. I mean, you got support from some incredible, social justice fighters out there, sending shout out to, obviously, Tamika Mallory. She's doing some amazing work out there in
Yes,
the field. Sean King, man, another amazing brother that without their voices, your voice, amplifying the importance of, the injustices that's happening out there, the racial injustice that's happening. Again, like you said, to echo from what you said, not every police officer is bad, right? But yet you're so quick to group everybody together because of the heinous things we've seen that they can do
right,
when unpoliced. It's that whole policing the police, and you shouldn't have to do that. But
right,
looking at it from a country, externally, we only see the bad, and I really feel for the really good police officers out there that are really trying to fight their fight as well and to just do their jobs correctly. So respect to
right,
them. But I totally understand what you're saying. And I think to be able to remove emotion, raw emotion from, something that again visually people will never forget and will be forever etched in history and in our minds and our hearts as a family member. For you to have been able to hold your steal your reserve is how we'll package that at such a time when you could have really clicked it, and that raw emotion could have come out, could have made it so much worse for you and your family. So
yes,
much power and respect to you, Terrence. But you really have gained a lot of support, obviously, from these particular agencies. Obviously, Anthony Crump as well. Sorry, not Anthony. Attorney Crump as well. Much respect to him for his incredible
yes,
work in bringing all of these injustices to the fore, and of course the celebrity support. That was
Yes.
obviously because you're a very humble human being. I can imagine that has been a wave of overwhelming support for you. Um, what's it? What
I
what's it been like?
yeah, yeah, and with the celebrity support, it's like like you said, at the end of the day, they're human beings just like us. They're regular people just like us, and I have to, realize that because I grew up listening to, and they really shaped, lack of better term, they shaped my swag, I guess. you know,
we were
so
we
it's
were
like,
having a chat, everyone, about our like obviously the hip hop connection and some of the people that I've spoken to in the past. Obviously, Terrence and I were having a chat about the likes of Buster, Buster Rhymes, and obviously Royce the 5'9" and all these incredible hip hop artists. And here you are being reached out to by quite a few of them.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot, and actually, I didn't want to let the cat out the bag, but I'm trying to get something together this year. Also, We Are Floyd with 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 whoever wants to join forces with me, as far as the 50 years of hip hop,
Yes.
because my brother, he would have been 50 this year.
Oh man, that's even more poignant.
You know
Wow.
what I'm saying? So I'm just gonna put it out there in the air.
I
You
love
know,
that. That's really special, man. That is, yeah, people, whoever's listening, reach out, that could be something incredibly impactful again with that hip hop connection. Because listen,
yes,
hip hop, man, it's the voice of the voice of the struggle, the voice of the oppressed at the end of the day. And it's not that we are, we don't live oppressed, but the struggle continues clearly,
yes, yes,
in many ways and forms. And I just think that would be really special if something was to happen. So fingers crossed, man. Sending out good vibes, good vibes.
yes. And when it does happen, you got to come to the states.
Oh,
Be-
you don't need to tell
because
me.
because I'm not gonna do this without Kev spitting a couple of bars at this event anyway. So
Listen, you need to get Kevin Hannibal on back onto that stage doing what he does best. And I think we will definitely yeah, I'll just say a little something to see if I can coax and cajole him back onto that. I don't think you'd need to ask. I'm almost certain he'd be incredibly supportive as he always is and as he has been. There's
indeed,
so much good work that you are doing, Terrence, that you continue to do. You're also a father, you're an uncle as well. If I can ask, how is dear George's daughter doing? How is she? Is she safe, well,
I
thriving?
yeah, she's well, she's well. It's
Yeah,
different things mentally. She that's her daddy.
yeah,
That's her
absolutely.
daddy. So it's gonna be certain emotions that she's gonna go through.
Yeah.
But I actually was able to see her. She came up to New York for the NAN convention, maybe like a week ago, and I was able to see her. And she looks beautiful. She
Oh,
looks well, and it was just heaven to
yeah,
see her doing well, and see her smiling.
that's
You
it.
know,
That's so important. That's amazing because I do often think about that when all of the smoke sort of settles. You think, there are children and there are family involved, and there's so many levels to it, right? The conversations are
yes,
needed, they're passionate, they're powerful, and they're very personal. But behind it all, it is a family that has had to come together, regardless of whether you all live in the same state. There's
right,
obviously there
right.
were fractions before, and as long as the two of you, as in yourself and George, were able to come together when you did, at least that's always something that connection can
Yeah,
never be severed, right? And that's the importance
and
of
it, and one of the biggest. I often got asked this question, and I would answer it kind of like surface, but until I sat back and really realized the the big memory that I remember about my brother was the fact that we connected. We able to come face to face, but I was able to let him know who our father was because I was raised with my father. He wasn't,
Right.
you know, and a lot of things he was dealing with and going through. I was able to. He asked me, you know, how was our father? How was our dad? You know, I just was able to just stand there because we was walking, and I remember we was walking and we was just talking, and I was able to tell him who our father was, what he was like, you know, and different things, different trials and tribulations he went through. And I remember one the phrase he said to me. He said, "Man, little bro, it fits." And
Yeah.
I said, "It fits. What you mean?" And he was like, "It fits, man. You telling me about dad, you telling me about pops, and a lot of things I'm dealing with and going through, it was the same." And he's like, "Okay, now I could." What I got from that is he really started to understand who he was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I'm not saying that being raised by your mother and stuff like that, you know, you know who you are, but it's just
Absolutely.
that bloodline, that male. Who am I? Who am I like? Who am I? Where did I come from? And then to hear it,
Yeah.
and then to know, and for it to match, like he said, it fits. And that's one of the biggest memories I carry with me, the fact that I, after all the years of not being around him, but I was able to connect with him and let him know and give him clarity on himself.
Oh man. That is what a testimony. That is so powerful, Terrence, seriously, and something that only you and he share, which I think that's what I'm saying. Like, even though the time was cut short, you have that, and that you were able to bridge that sort of connector for him as well, which I think would have made such a huge difference in his life. Um, Thank you for sharing that with me. That's really powerful stuff. Because I often wonder, parents or, children that obviously have, maybe the same parent, but like, live in different homes, or they only share a parent and they don't see the other one, how much that impacts. And especially, I think fathers with sons, it's really important. I have that conversation with my husband all the time about our boys and you know, even like raising our kids here in Australia as opposed to raising them in the US. And I
Mhm.
know that he misses home because his family's back in the US, but he always tells me that this is where, this is home, like where we are is home. And being able to actually see his kids um, walk safely outside and be able to just move differently. It makes such a
Right,
huge difference. But he is about, making sure that they're connected to their culture and they know, where their dad comes from, because they know where their mom comes
right,
from. But, it's so important, I think,
right.
for those connections and those conversations to happen. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's a balance. It's a
it's
balance.
really, it really is. It really is a balance. Absolutely. Um, I'm aware of the time. I know that you're obviously in your car and you've obviously got a lot of places to go. So I'm going to wrap it up. Not that I want to, because I think you and I could talk forever.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
We could talk forever, and I'd love to be able to pick up with you again at some stage, especially as your organization grows and continues to make those connections with the schools. I really hope you do. I mean, hip hop
Yes,
music programs, or any music program, but I think particularly hip hop music programs within schools just make the biggest difference, and they really are heartlines for a lot of
yes,
kids that are struggling. Um,
yes,
and I actively support that for you guys, and I know that you'll make that connection. You move with the right intention, Terrence, and you're an incredibly humbling and such a positive human being for everything that you've been through personally. um I take my hat off to you, brother, and I really thank you for using your voice in such a positive way to bring continual and shine continual light on not only your brother's name, but your name as well.
Right. And you know, I listen to people, you know, compliment me and say different things. I have to always give respect and acknowledge where it comes from. You know, my father, he was the same time. He passed away too. He in 2002. You know, but he was just a laid back, humble guy that you can really relate to.
Yeah,
And that's also contrary to what social media pins on my brother. That's
absolutely.
how he was. That's how he was too. It's the bloodline. It's the bloodline. It's the Floyd bloodline. This is what we do. We calm. We humble. We just down to earth people
Yeah.
that you know. We're socialites. That's what people call us. We get along with everybody. If you don't like the if you hate us and don't like us, it's something wrong with you.
And to put it back on them. That's what I say. And I'm glad that you were just real quick. I'm glad that you brought that up because yeah, people are so quick to judge, man. It's just and social. Listen, for all the good that social media does, the bad really sometimes can outweigh that good with the judgment and the misinformation that is put out there. I mean, you're so
Right.
right about, people's sort of skewed, thought processes and sort of judgments on your brother. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know him. I didn't know him personally, but I feel I know him now through you. And this is the first time you and I have even seen each other, like in terms of on a screen,
Right.
spoken, and I feel like there's a really really great connection because there's pure intention and there's honesty and there's that open
Yes.
communication that flows. And I hazard a guess to think that George would have been the same way because he had
Yeah.
such an influx of support from the people in that area, and so many people said so much really good to say about him. Why do we always believe the bad? Why is the bad often so much easier to believe? It's ridiculous.
That that's the I don't want to say the economy, the culture we in now, where drama sells.
Yes, doesn't
Drama
it?
drama sells. It went from it started with sex sells, then now drama sells. Anything to get us to look worse than what look bad.
Yeah,
Anything to look anything to make us look bad, oh they're gonna sell. They're gonna sell that.
that's so
But if you come out here and you wearing a suit and you doing things godly and by the book, they don't want to show that. That don't sell. That don't get them likes.
That's true. Oh, anything for the gram and for hella likes. It's crazy. It really is crazy, and it's something I ask myself every day. And even though like I said, social media there's that balance, but I think a lot of the time that scale really tips to the negative too much. Because if it was more on that, just like the world would just really sometimes I think get itself right back upside if they did the if
Right, right.
if the truth was reported a lot more than just making it look good for the gram or yeah, just
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Mm,
And that's why the youth are so misinformed
yeah.
because they're looking at the gram, they're looking at social media, and I'm like, I tell them quick, they bought that outfit just for that event. They don't have money like that.
Is your rent
You
paid?
know?
Is your car note paid?
That for real. You talk about you see them with all the chains and the cars, and then they page go down. They talk about under construction. Nope, they
This
didn't pay the bill.
under construction, also known as ain't got no money in the bank. So that's under
Right,
construction too.
right. You know,
I feel you.
it's the social media is, and I you know what? I said it to my friends. I want to say maybe like a year or two ago. I just like an epiphany. It just came to me, and I said, social media is gonna ruin a lot of relationships.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I said it's gonna ruin a lot of relationships, and I'm seeing it now. Divorces, everything. People, friendships that have been for years, they're breaking up because it's
Oh,
like social media is, and it's like I didn't want to jinx nobody. I was just being real. Listen to me, because don't get intrigued and trapped into this social media. Turn it off every now and then.
this is it. I'm telling you. But it's like there's almost like I liken it to, it's worse than COVID, like worse than the
Oh,
pandemic, with the way the oversharing. I think oversharing is like COVID. We got to share
right,
everything. We got to take pictures of everything. There's the constant flexing. I don't care about your
right,
car logo, about the size of your ring, the bags, because at the end of the day, those bags were all made in the same factory as the cheap ones. They just put a
exactly.
different thing on it. Like,
Hey,
empower yourself, people. But it's true, Terrence. Like, it's just, yeah, that flex is different. The flex is something even in the brain. I think I got to share it. I have to tell people. I got to show them what I bought. Why? I don't care.
why?
Like,
And
it
that's what continues the drama, because you showing everything you got. Now they want to take it.
that's it. Oh, it activates a really bad
Yeah,
side of humanity, right? It really, really does.
it does. It does.
Well, that's
Mm.
advice, everybody, from Terrence Floyd. Make sure your relationships are intact and don't put it on social media. Don't be flexing where you shouldn't.
Keep your private, and keep your social.
I like that. There you go. Listen, you hear to hear first. This is why we have these real conversations.
Right.
Listen, brother, thank you so much for your time today. It's been enlightening, and it really, really has. Um, it's just been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to touch
Indeed.
base with you on what is still a very, very not a touchy subject. I think people will continue to talk about it, have to talk about it on an international scale, because George didn't die in vain. Yeah, and
No, he
he
didn't.
will never be looked upon, whether you got involved in the movement or not. It was still, it was wrongful, and it was something that will forever leave a stain. I think, unfortunately, within the U.S., George's death is resonated, of course, with everybody, all different colors, creeds, and cultures. But when we think about our own culture, right, in terms of Black culture, Black and Brown people, the constant fight that occurs from what we can see is happening in the US. What are your thoughts about what we as a people, right? What Black people need to arm ourselves with doing in order to fight the good fight? Because yeah, there's we've got to look inward sometimes in order to really be able to make effective change. So what are your thoughts on that?
I believe we have to have more action. I want to say, I'll put it this way: have more action than performance.
Okay.
Because you could action to me is when you're doing it when the cameras and the lights are off and nobody's looking, and you really about this movement. Like the Sharptons, like Big Crump, and those civil rights fighters we have now. You know, performance is like when you on camera, you on the TV, wherever you can be seen by thousands and millions of people, then you perform.
Yeah.
So I believe action has to outweigh performance, and we have to, as a culture, if we want um everyone else to listen to us, we have to listen to us first. We have to have the unity,
Yeah.
because once we have that unity, then we'll be strong together, instead of trying to be strong individually and fight this fight individually. We can fight it together. And I believe that's when they're gonna listen, and
Yeah,
that's when the bills that I believe that's when the bills that we put forth are gonna get passed, and that's when I believe that the mindsets will change because they're seeing that we're changing, that we're really about our life and loving people and loving ourselves.
absolutely.
That
Absolutely. Because yeah, while there's tension within our own sort of culture towards each other, you can't exact a positive and effective change that way. That the
right,
whole culture then feels, because if there's fraction internally, well, how are you going to come together at the end of that unified?
right,
It
right.
doesn't connect. So 1,000% echo your sentiments, 1,000% there. And hopefully this generation is about that and can read the room a little bit differently, right? It's not about
Right,
just self anymore. It's about community. By getting yourself right
right,
first then impacts all of that. It's a lot
right.
of work to be done, man. A lot of work. A lot of
Yeah.
work.
And I see a lot of us in the culture, we talk about how, 400 years you were slaves and stuff like that. I really want, and I'm not gonna get too far into that, but I want people in this culture to really, like I said before, educate themselves. Don't just regurgitate what you heard someone else say. Because every story, even the stories in the Bible, every story, when one person read it, another person read it, we all have different interpretations.
Yeah.
So I just advise our culture to educate themselves more on what we're being told and what you hear,
Yeah.
instead of just regurgitating it out back into the world.
That is so true. That is so true. It's like, also being aware of, what our kids are being taught at school, what's the reference point from that? And I know that there's a
Hmm.
huge conversation and a huge thing going on in the US right now about, all of the books and, things that are being altered and, affected, which again, you can't you can't alter history, no matter
Yeah,
how uncomfortably it might sit for some, but you can't alter it. And
right.
stuff happened, and children need to know about that so that they can better inform themselves. And that's coming
Exactly.
from, um, a proud teacher,
Right.
as well over here. And you you got to do right by the next generation, because
That's right.
to really sort of alleviate that generational trauma type of thing. You can't ever eradicate it, but just to alleviate, so our kids don't have to sit there and go, well, my parents went through this, and now I'm going through it again. Like, that's not evolution, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I totally echo your sentiments, and I really do hope that as a culture, you know, the the message of unity within self, you know, flows on, and then really does make that unified change, because that's what we need.
Right. Right. Exactly.
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 Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you.
Anytime. Where can people, before we go, find out more about what you're doing? Please let everybody know, or on social media, like we said, we're doing the good. Where can people find
Yeah.
you?
Well, well, you can find me on Twitter. We are Floyd.org. Um, uh, Facebook. Either Terrence Floyd, that's Terrencefloyd, Floyd. You'll see the cartoon character with me with the bullhorn. Because there's a lot of Terrence Floyds, so you could really look at when you look at the profile pic, it's a cartoon character with me holding a bullhorn. Um, that's Facebook. Instagram is Terrence Floyd NYC, Terrencefloyd NYC on Instagram, and LinkedIn is We Are Floyd.
Marvelous. And I will make sure that I put all of those handles, obviously, in the description of link once we send
Okay.
or once our interview goes out, and also just to
Right.
let people know that they can obviously also donate to the We Are Floyd Foundation as well.
Right.
Definitely get that support up globally as well for the work that you're doing.
Okay.
So yeah, like I was saying, definitely make sure that you do get involved with helping We Are Floyd. Donations are accepted, and I'll make sure that all the links are obviously down below, so people can see where they can find you. But thank you again, brother. It was absolutely wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you
Yes.
for your honesty, and in this incredible space that we've had today. And let's not be strangers, yeah.
Of course not. Of course not.
We are definitely connected now. So thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And
Well, I just want to begin by extending my condolences to the Floyd family. They exemplify spiritual nobility. That's very important. Long history, 400 years of black people having to come to terms with these kinds of vicious murders and assassinations and attacks. But I think what we're really experiencing here, though, brother, and I say this in all honesty and deep sadness, but I think we are witnessing America as a failed social experiment. And what I mean by that is that the history of black people for over 200 and some years in America has been looking at America's failure. Its capitalist economy could not generate and deliver in such a way that people could live lives of decency. The nation state, its criminal justice system, its legal system could not generate protection of rights and liberties. And now our culture, of course, is so market-driven, everybody for sale, everything for sale. It can't deliver the kind of nourishment for soul, for meaning, for purpose. And so when you get this perfect storm of all of these multiple failures at these different levels of the American empire, and Martin King already told us about that. When I saw those pictures there in Atlanta, you could see Martin right there in Atlanta saying, I told you about militarism, I told you about poverty, I told you about materialism, I told you about racism in all of its forms. And what we've seen in America is now these chickens coming home to roost. And in this instant, you have Brother George, where it is so clear it is a lynching at the highest level. Nobody can deny it. And I thank God that we have people in the streets. Can you imagine this kind of lynching taking place? And people are indifferent. People don't care. People are callous. But you know what's sad about it, though, brother? At the deepest level, it looks as if the system cannot reform itself.
I'm the son of a police officer. My cousin is a police officer. And my other cousin, East Point, police officer. And I got a lot of love and respect for police officers, down to the original 8 police officers in Atlanta that even after becoming police had to dress in a YMCA because white officers didn't want to get dressed with niggers. And here we are 80 years later. I watched a white officer assassinate a black man. And I know that tore your heart out. And I know it's crippling. And I have nothing positive to say in this moment, because I don't want to be here. I'm duty-bound to be here to simply say that it is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization. I'm mad as hell. I woke up wanting to see the world burn down yesterday because I'm tired of seeing black men die. He casually put his knee on a human being's neck for 9 minutes as he died like a zebra in the clutch of a lion's jaw. So that's why children are burning to the ground. They don't know what else to do. So my question for us on the other side of this camera is, after it burns, will we be left with charred, or will we rise like a phoenix out of the ashes? It is the responsibility of us to make this better right now. We don't want to see one officer charged. We want to see 4 officers prosecuted and sentenced. We want to see the system that sets up for systemic racism burnt to the ground. But what I can tell you is that if you sit in your homes tonight, instead of burning your home to the ground, you will have time to properly plot, plan, strategize, and organize and mobilize in an effective way. And 2 of the most effective ways is first taking your butt to the computer and making sure you fill out your sentences so that people know who you are and where you are. The next thing is making sure you exercise your political bully power and going to local elections and beating up the politicians that you don't like. Now is the time to do that, but it is not time to burn down your own home. Now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize.